5, 4, 3, 2. Can you hear me, Ral?
Hello and welcome to Beekeeper. I'm Hiral Dadia. A big story that has developed in the aviation industry, wherein Go-First Airlines will temporarily suspend flights due to a severe cash crunch on the 3rd and the 4th of May. And they will be filing for voluntary insolvency resolution proceedings after suspending the flights as well. And this is a big development coming in there. To discuss more on this, Jitender Bhargava joins in. Mr. Bhargava, good evening and welcome to the show. My first question coming to you is, what would this actually mean? I mean, how has it reached this stage according to you?
It's very surprising because you can't really compare with the other airlines that shut down operations. They were full service carriers sustaining losses over a prolonged period, and we knew they're going to gradually shut down one day. But here is an airline which makes a public announcement that we are voluntarily getting into NCLT for shutting down operations. Now, one low-cost airline, totally different ball game, economics are different. But then, of course, Go Air was beset with their own problems. 2005, you look up 18 years, the pace at which they were growing was very tardy. International operations, they took their own sweet time to get onto the Gulf operations. The number of chief executives came in and went out of Go Air. But there has to be stability in an airline. Somebody sees this is way forward for the airline and this is, we'll take it up. It wasn't that way. And what surprises me most is that airlines have been going through a purple patch. Look at the load factors, 90% plus. Higher fares, relatively higher fares. Profitability, look, Indigo had in the quarter, October, December, reported a 15 crore profit per day. And I would expect that in January, March, it'll be still higher. So it had totally different reason, and they've given out us the fact that 25 of their aircraft have been on ground because of Pratt & Whitney engines. So the question is, what has Pratt & Whitney got to say on it? Number one. Number two, all of 25 aircraft couldn't have been grounded on one day. It must have happened over a period of time. It brings me to a question, why did Go Air did not share this with the traveling public or truncate their schedule of operations? And a bigger question, DGCA, as a regulatory agency, were they not aware of it? The fact is, they had given enough signs of it because when they went to DGCA for getting the summer schedule approved, they had lesser number of flights than they had 6 months ago. So there was some problem. One could have picked up symptoms and said, well, there is something wrong with Go Air.
Right. So overall, Mr. Bhargava, clearly, as you're mentioning as well, almost 50% of the aircrafts are grounded. And as mentioned, it's due to trouble over non-supply of engines from Pratt & Whitney. Now, what Pratt & Whitney has to come out and say is going to be crucial, and what the DGCA comes out and says when they submit a report is going to be important. However, if you see from a business model, the airline was already on a cash and carry mode where they were paying the OMCs on a daily basis for fuel. And now they've filed for voluntary insolvency resolution. In the last 15 months, around $366 million is what the promoters had invested in the company so far. How do you relate to all of this? Because yes, there has been a fund infusion that has come in, but now that they were on a cash and carry model, wouldn't this have been known on a daily basis?
Oh, well, they had left enough clues for DGCA to take note of. Now, you can't spring a surprise and say, look, you're booked to travel on a flight tomorrow, day after, and your flight is cancelled. Where do you go? Considering that all other carriers have also been operating at 90% plus load factor. Where are the vacant seats? And at what astronomical fare will these passengers end up paying? So somebody has to look at it, and I keep saying this very often. that the Ministry of Civil Aviation need to look back at the data of the last 3 years now. In January 2020, that is pre-COVID period, 4 lakh passengers were flying per day on domestic sector, with 3,000 plus flights being operated. Currently, more than 40,000 more people are traveling every day on our flights, but the number of flights being operated is less than 3,000. So Ministry of Civil Aviation has to persuade the other airlines to put in more capacity into the market immediately, not exploit passengers who have been impacted, and ensure that the inconvenience caused to passengers minimized to the extent feasible.
Right. So, Mr. Bhargava, overall, if you see from here on, what could be the next step? Because 2 to 3 days is what they're looking at. Plus, in terms of market share, 8.9% is what they commanded in calendar year 2022. What will this disruption cause in terms of the aviation industry? One, in terms of distribution of market share, and two, in terms of the supply-demand scenario affecting prices.
You see, the market share of Go Air had gone down from 9 to 6.9% the recent months. So it's a question of absorbing the 6.9% market share on other airlines. Just as I said earlier, with these airlines operating at 90% plus, where are the seats available? Unless you add flights to take care of these passengers, you really cannot avoid the chaos that you are likely to witness. The positive side, as I would like to look at, is will it help in consolidation? One weak player goes out of the market. You got Indigo, you got Air India. One a legacy carrier, full service carrier, the other a low cost airline. One airline primarily on the international long haul sectors plus domestic sector, the other largely on the domestic sector with some flights onto the Gulf and neighboring countries. So will this consolidation lead to a better, healthier civil aviation sector in India? I think yes.
Okay.
Because, if you look up the Go Air history for the 18 years, one has never felt extremely confident on the way they've gone ahead. They were in the market for sure. But probably this 9% has become kind of a thing. If you remember, SpiceJet was also at one time India's second largest domestic player in the market, 15% plus market share at that time. Now, they have also been in a difficult financial state. So, what surprises me is that the last 6-8 months have been very, very good for the aviation sector. Very high load factors, good profitability. If not making profit, at least the losses have come down. The fares have been high and people are not cribbing, and yet the market has been growing.
Correct. So in such a time, how are you expecting the impact in terms of ticket pricing? Do you see ticket prices increasing even if it's 6 to 7% of market share?
The fares will go up. But as I said earlier, the Ministry of Civil Aviation and DGCA must confront the existing airlines with the data of the pre-COVID period and say, look, you have been making money on relatively high fares on high load factors. Now let's get back to the pre-COVID days and have so many flights to operate. Because if you can add those flights, let's not forget, in the pre-COVID period, Akasa Airline did not exist. So if you subtract Akasa Airlines number of flights being operated and then say, look, other airlines have been operating, and of course, we know that SpiceJet has been operating much lesser number of flights than they were doing earlier. So there has to be a balance struck by the ministry and said, look, we know this is what has happened. This is the consequences of it, because we faced it earlier with the closure of Jet Airways, Kingfisher, and other airlines in the past. But we are ready with a plan to ensure that The fares do not go to the extent that airlines would like it to or exploit the passengers. And second, that we must get more people in, more air flights into the system.
Right. So overall, Mr. Bhargav, now that they're saying that once the NCLT admits the application, then the flights will be restarted. Is that something which is a possibility, number one? And two, what happens to people who've already booked advance tickets? How do refunds actually happen out of this?
See, again, the same thing would happen. Where is the money to refund the money? And where are the seats on the other airline that you can accommodate? And why would they accommodate at the fare that Go Air charged? So, it's a difficult situation from the passenger's perspective. This is where I've said, if the ministry was to take an initiative, DGCA was to take a slightly stricter view of the whole situation. I'm using the word persuade airlines to mount additional capacity to the extent that they can. Because you certainly can't expect passengers, please don't travel for the next 15 days till we put our house in order. So the initiative must come from the ministry.
Right. And are there any guidelines with the ministry already has in place for a scenario like this? Because the industry has already faced this a couple of years ago with Jet Airways. Now, taking a learning from there, have any improvements happened on that end?
Well, there are lessons that both Kingfisher and Jet Airways provided. The question is, are we paying heed to it?
Right.
Look at what happens to the employees. Let's not overlook them. Passenger is one part of it.
Yeah, 5,000 employees is what...
so employees who have been working for an airline, and fortunately, most airlines are in growth mode. So the good amongst the Go Air employees will get absorbed by them, provided they don't put conditions. That, look, I was commanding this status in Go Air. I was getting this emolument. First thing is to get onto a good job with a good airline.
So overall, what needs to be true, Mr. Bhargav, for Go First to restart operations according to you? Because that is crucial. What are those check boxes that need to be ticked from here on?
You see, first question to be asked is, are they keen? Is it public posturing? That you are not really saying that, look, we have gone under and we are unlikely to start because we will not have the resources to do it. Let's not overlook the fact, a couple of years ago, they were wanting an IPO to raise funds. They couldn't pursue. The seriousness, the business model, and as I've been saying very often, you can't change your chief executive too often. There has to be a vision for an airline. Somebody has to execute the vision plan and ensure that I've reached my destination. It hasn't happened that way.
Right. And do you think there will be a carrier who will be actually looking to come and probably take it over, or a strategic financial investor who could come in and could save it? Do you think that's a good possibility?
The best chance to do so is earlier. First is, Go First has come out with a statement that is largely on account of the grounding of 25 aircraft because of Pratt & Whitney that the problem is coming. So you are not sending a message that, look, funds were a constraint, though we all know about it, that funds have been a factor. Now, if you were to start looking for a strategic partner, it has to be when you have a significant market share. You get higher valuation. So somebody has to say, okay, 6 months ago, if I had started and been on the lookout for somebody, when you have a commanding 7, 8, 9% market share, you would have had a higher valuation. But now when you are on the threshold of an imminent shutdown, why would anybody come and give me an answer to this?
Right. And then what happens? I mean, are we saying, is this the death of a Go First as well, like a Jet Airways?
Possibly, but let's look at it. I'm an optimist, and I would hope that this thing doesn't happen. That Pratt & Whitney can be called by the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Why only should Go Air be interacting with them? If they are the real culprit leading to Go First collapse thing, well, Ministry of Civil Aviation had the requisite clout of calling them and taking it up escalating it at the senior-most level at the Pratt & Whitney headquarters. Something does not add up here.
Absolutely.
Did they
See,
raise
overnight,
the
I
alarm bells?
absolutely
Did they
agree
raise
with
the
you that
alarm
overnight
bells?
engines cannot be seeing failure. This is something which is happening over a period of time where 50% of the fleet is grounded due to engine issues.
Yeah. So, that's where I said if the facts come out in public domain, Pratt & Whitney makes a statement on what all they did to help go first, or there were other issues there, because only then will you be able to segmentize it. Pratt & Whitney's share of leading to the collapse was this percentage, and the financial situation was this. And the moment you were confronted with something and you said, look, let me take the easier way out because I want to exit this industry, which is not helping me make money, but only led to sinking of money. It's a difficult industry, we all know about it.
Absolutely. I think intervention by the DGCA is going to be absolutely crucial in this, and their comments that come out of the report is going to be important. Thank you, Mr. Bhargava, so much for joining us on the show. Pleasure getting your views as always. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you.